I absolutely love this movie. It's not perfect, but I had an ear-to-ear smile for almost the entire thing. One of the things that I liked about it was, I mean, much like with Transformers 1, the marketing did not do this movie any justice. They were
True.
selling it as a goofy comedy. It's not. It's actually not that funny. There's a
No,
couple of
like
really funny.
I talked with one of my brothers about this. He asked me about it. So, like,
Mm,
was it funny? I went
mm,
in a few places, but it's incidental to trying
right.
to. It's the humor is incidental to this trying to be a family movie. It's not intended to be comedic.
Right. The Rock has a couple of really funny lines, and the first time you see him do the Ant-Man routine, it's ridiculous because it just looks ridiculous. It's The
It
Rock,
looks.
and then,
It not only looks ridiculous, it looks bad.
yeah, it looks really
I'll
bad.
get to that later, but
It's not quite as seamless as the stuff Paul Rudd does with Ant-Man, but that's a whole other conversation. But like, when Chris Evans is asking The Rock what's the mission, and he was like, to spread joy, asshole. Like, I laughed hard at that. Just like there was so much in that line, and The Rock delivered it really funny. But like I said, the movie is not slapsticky at all. Like they don't
very
even really
very
do a lot of
rarely.
they don't even really do a lot of funny stuff with the action sequences. It's all played pretty straight.
Yeah,
That's one of the things that I really liked about this movie was everybody in it is deadly. And I absolutely know the critically acclaimed guys are going to say the exact opposite of what I'm about to say. Like William Bibiani is going to be like, why didn't they lean into the silly more? And I think that's a strength that they don't lean into the silly. Everyone plays this deadly fucking serious. Lucy Liu acts like the mythological organization she's running is the fucking CIA. It's great. The Rock has like religious zealotry and the seriousness of a fucking Marine, which works for his character. J.K. Simmons' Santa Claus might be the best Santa Claus I've seen on
hang
film
on.
in a long
Let me
time.
let me make the following point.
Mm-hmm.
Of this entire cast, there is only one bit of casting for this movie that I think is actually relevant, and it's J.K. Simmons. You could recast the entire rest of this movie,
Sure.
and you would probably still be about as good. Like you
Yeah,
could get someone else.
Jason Statham could have done The Rock's job. You could have gotten Chris Pine or Chris Pratt could do Chris Evans's job.
Either of those. Get any of the
Yeah,
Chris's, apart from maybe
yeah.
Hemsworth, because well, Hemsworth could do the Rock's job. Like
Literally
that's
anyone could have been Lucy Liu. They could have gotten any halfway serious broad to be Lucy Liu.
you
But
could
yeah,
have got Sydney Sweeney. Well, like,
yeah,
and I don't mean that pejoratively. I mean like
hmm
anybody. The
yeah.
only role in this movie that actually I think is critical to the success of this film in ways that are difficult to fully quantify is the role of Santa Claus. And you, like, J.K. Simmons is the man. Like, this
Yeah.
was,
You know what he
he's
reminded me? He
not,
reminded
look,
me of
because,
he reminded me of how much Linkletter from the I believe that's his name from Midnight Mass. But like
okay,
in that I don't have to play this I don't have to play this silly. Jolly doesn't necessarily denote silly.
yeah,
I can be jolly in the spirit of good without being a clown, without being asinine. Like he is when you go to your religious leaders, I know religious leaders have caught a bad rap for the last 20 odd years or so. The Catholic, you know, um, the scandal with the kids and everything didn't fucking do anyone any favors, obviously. So religious leaders take a bad rap, especially for those of people who have had really bad experiences with religious institutions in their life. And I'm not taking that away from them. I'm not saying they're all perfect. Far from it. However, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, and let's not, like we do with cops, paint with the whitest brush possible that they're all bad. There were some truly great, and this is what I'm trying to get to, inspiring religious leadership. And when that religious leadership is empathetic and inspiring and kind and gentle, it does an enormous amount of good for those that touch it, for those that are involved with it. That's the energy J.K. Simmons brought to that character.
mm,
And might I also add, all of the masculinity he brought. Like
yeah,
there is without again, we tend to because of the world we live in now, tend to associate masculinity with toxic masculinity. And if you're looking for what's the difference is the J.K. Simmons Santa Claus character in this movie.
Yeah, he is very driven by his goals.
Mm-hmm.
He is very committed to a lot of masculine pursuits, and none of that is harsh or demeaning or has any kind of negative, deleterious effect to anyone around him. He is uplifting, and
Yeah.
that's what that's supposed to look like.
The Rock is leaving his position because he can't live up to the expectation anymore. And Santa's whole thing is it's still there, it's still see you, but I can't force you. I can't force you to see what's still there that you're not acknowledging anymore. You'll come to it on your own.
Yeah.
And he does, and then he's just like, good, see, told you. Glad you're still with us. And that's it. That's all that was needed. It's great. J.K. Simmons is phenomenal in this, and he won't get anywhere near the credit that he deserves. Because he deserves a Best Supporting Actor
He
nomination.
really does. I was about to say that. Like, he's not going to get any kind of respect from the awards community for this role because of the movie. But anyone who takes the craft of acting seriously and the acknowledgement of that seriously, dude, this is one of the best supporting acting jobs you'll find all year from this one guy in this one silly movie. But the fact that it's a silly movie doesn't matter. His acting should, and he does
I
wonderful
guarantee you
job.
that if we picked up the traditional conservative religious motifs, there's going to be a concerted effort to tell people to stay away from this movie. It's trash.
Probably.
The Rock is shit. This is garbage. Don't watch it. You know, I almost guarantee you there's at least a part. I mean, I think part of the harsh criticism is don't challenge my worldview. I can't take it. And the other half is, well, we really don't want people to see this. We're trying to. Like, how did this not come out of one of the weirdo conservative studios? This came from MGM. For God's sakes, how did this happen? Who let this happen? So anyway,
Probably.
The Rock, I think, is fine. The Rock is The Rock. You know, he's always,
he just is who he is. He's got a. I don't mean to say that he has no range, because I think that would be a little bit unfair to the man.
No, because
but
his voice
it's
worked
narrow.
from Maui. His voice work from Maui in Moana shows that he has range and he can do a lot of fun stuff. But he's kind of become like, I want to say John Cena, but
hang on, no. I heard The Rock
keep taking the same roles over and over again.
I heard The Rock described this way once. When he started like really churning out movies and they started being a bit more successful. He's not an actor, he's a brand.
Yeah.
And the roles he takes, there can be variance there. Some will be goofier because he's actually a pretty decent comedic actor. Not the best, but he's okay. He can do the action stuff.
This inspired my kids to start talking about the Tooth Fairy. Apparently, Melissa and Chris, because hockey, they showed Jonas and Lily the Tooth Fairy, and Joe's like, "This movie sucks. Why did you do this to me?" But Red One inspired a conversation about their viewing of the Tooth Fairy, which has The Rock in it.
If you want to show him another movie with The Rock that I think is, I heard it described this way, but he's in a movie that's called The Rundown, which I actually adore.
Dude, of course I've seen The Rundown. The Rundown's awesome.
I heard someone say once that if The Rundown had been released in 1991, we would hold it up as a classic like Die Hard.
Yeah. If The Rundown was in 1985, it would be revered.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It would be, because that's the spirit that movie channels.
Yeah.
So, but
let me talk about
the point...
finish, but then I'm going to talk about Chris Evans.
Okay. But the point about The Rock is like there is some range there, but he's not going to do what Batista or Cena do in terms of like Batista is a very good actor, believe it or not.
Yeah, well, he takes a variety of parts that require acting.
And don't get me wrong, not everything he does is great. I'm not going to stump for everything Batista's done, but he makes a concerted effort to look for roles and the things that challenge him and push him.
Yeah.
And that means sometimes he's a whiny bully. And The Rock is just not going to take that role because the brand that he is something that he holds more important than what he does as an actor. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying that's
Hmm.
the lens through
Yeah.
which he kind of approaches this.
So Chris Evans, I really loved in Knives Out, and he kind of takes that bag of shit character in Knives Out and turns it up. Like he is just garbage in this movie, but him and The Rock both have really great, solid character arcs. And his arc of by the end of it, and this is another element. I said this to you off air, in a bit of chiding from a few weeks ago. We don't need to get into it, but I said to you at the time, and I'm making this public now. I take being a father very seriously. You don't have to like my choices as a father. You don't have to like the way that I raise my kids, but it's the way I've chosen to do it, and I stand by it 100%. And my children's behavior and hopefully their success in life is all the proof I need I'm doing the right thing. And that's all I'm going to say about that. However, if I ever do anything else in my life, I will always have been and will be a father, and that's all I ever need to be. I wish being the best father I could be had financial rewards to where I'm not staring into the fucking abyss every day, wondering how I'm going to make rent this month. But I should have made better financial choices. Say la vie. But uh, I don't think there's anything better in life than being a dad. My personal opinion. I don't expect everyone to agree with it, but it's my own personal philosophy. I love the shit out of my kids. And I try very, very hard every day to be the best dad that I can be. And I don't always succeed. And I have definitely made mistakes. And I'm paying for those mistakes as we speak. But I try each day to do a little bit better. And one of the themes of this movie, one of the ideas behind it, is Chris Evans' internal struggle with being a dad and feeling I'm not worthy of. I'm not nearly the bag of shit that Chris Evans is, and I have felt that way, that I am not worthy. My kids. There have definitely been times, especially over the last 2 years, that I thought my kids would be better off without me, and I had to be kind of slapped back into reality of they would be so much worse without you. What the fuck is wrong with you? Um, Welcome to my daily struggle. But him going, I stayed away because you have a great mom, you have a great stepdad. What the fuck do you need me for? I'm terrible. I can only bring you pain. And his son going, you're still my dad. I still want you there. And by the end of the movie, he comes to see the value of being the best father he can be, warts and all. That's great. That got me in the feels, and it honestly produced tears. Like I was, crying happy tears for Chris Evans's character learning the value of fatherhood and the bonding between child and father.
He says something that I actually appreciated that they gave a line they gave the character. Because when he's talking between the snow globes to his kid, and he
Hmm.
says, look, my behavior has been bad for you, like me trying to stay away, like it's been bad for you and it's been worse for me. The acknowledgement that the voluntary acceptance of the responsibility makes you a better person. And it's not always easy, but that gets lost a lot in the discourse around stuff like this. His line about you're in a better place. Your mom's pretty awesome. She's a doctor. She married a very good man. Thankfully, this wasn't like I imagine Roland Emmerich would have rewritten that entirely because we've
Oh
talked
my
about his
god!
we've talked
Oh
about his antipathy for blended
yeah,
families before. But and there's a lot of contemporary thought out there that would put Chris Evans's character in the right for what he did.
right.
And this movie is well written enough and has a good enough grasp on the actual emotions and the actual philosophy that No, maybe you do kind of suck, but being willing to voluntarily accept responsibility and hardship is ennobling, and it will make you better.
I
And
think also the power of redemption, another religious
mm,
theme, is throughout this movie. You know, Chris Evans sort of on bended knee going, I want to be better. I want to be I want to redeem myself. I think is empowering.
mm.
Also, I can see why that would drive everyone, people who saw this of a certain kind, right up the wall.
Oh, of
Um,
course it would, because there's a the entire notion of redemption is almost absent from functionally the postmodernist philosophy.
there's a lot of comedians that kind of make fun of the whole Catholic confession thing, and I was talking to my kids about this, and I think I may have mentioned it on even a podcast, where the concept of confession is you're supposed to, confess the things that you have done, confess your sins so that you may be absolved of the guilt that you're carrying around and you have that energy to be better, to do better, to try harder, to make amends in your life, to not repeat the same shit mistakes over and over and over again. It's not a fucking car wash.
No,
You don't walk in there, I poked a badger with a stick. Ah, well, that's 10 Hail Marys and 10 and 7 Hallelujahs. Get the fuck out. And then you walk out and you commit more sins. No. It's the idea is I've done a bad thing. I feel horrible about it. I can't get out of my own fucking way right now. I'm struggling. Absolve me of my guilt so that I can get out of my own way and try to be better. This is shit and I don't like how I feel. And the priest goes, you were absolved. You know, do a penance. Don't be an asshole. Okay. And off you go. And it's like that whole second part is the part that seems to be lost in everybody. They're very much focused on I would like to get away with murder now. Can I get away with murder? Will you please absolve me of the bad things I do so that I can get away with the bullshit? So that I can, and I'm very much stuck on this lately. I said this to somebody recently. I was like, you are very much the pig who makes the house of straw. And you are just fiddling away and fiddling away. And then when the big bad wolf comes, you cry and look for the nearest pig you can find with a brick house. And after you've done this 2 or 3 more times, you start running out of pigs willing to take you in. And the fact that we as a society, seemingly, at least in America, value the straw pig culture versus the brick pig culture frustrates me to no end. But then we're back to the Simpsons and, Homer and what's his nuts, who worked hard to work at the plant and eventually blows himself up, but everything comes so easy to Homer. Or
I
Grimes.
you and one of these days you and I are going to have the discussion about Frank Grimes and whether or not
Hmm.
he's actually a villain.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that now because that might be a
Today is not that day.
today
But
is
my,
not
my
that day.
but so all of this to go back into Red One, the stuff with Chris Evans and the value of fatherhood and the value in redemption and wanting to be better, that's all in the movie. That's all in the
Yeah,
subtext. It's great and it's great.
in
And
some
it brought
cases
tears to my
super
eyes and it
text.
made me love the movie. Yes. And in some cases, right out there. And it made me love the movie that much more. The last thing I want to talk about, so we can move this on since we're almost at an hour. The Christmas mythology is totes adorbs. I just loved it. I
I
enjoy
why why would you say that?
I enjoy Kiernan Shipka. I think she's just a fine little blondie actress. I enjoyed her and I enjoyed the reviews I did with, my dear sweet friend Alexis Hana, where we looked at the chilling adventures of Sabrina. They don't have her do a whole hell of a lot, but she's supposed to look, evil and wicked and, they don't necessarily make her look sexy, thank God. But they gave her sufficient enough modern, pretty menace that I think she looks nice on screen, being the bad guy.
For
Her
the
line
record,
deliveries are fine.
another role that could have gone to pretty much anyone.
Yeah. There's at least 10 short blondes they could have given that to if they wanted the same look.
And if they're willing to wear a wig, you could have expanded that list even more.
Yeah. Any one of the Descendants characters, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, my point is, Kiernan Shipka did a perfectly serviceable job. She looked nice in the costume. I thought she gave, as good a performance as needed of her. And her plan made sense. good God, I've been her. Where her just like, my God, everybody sucks, and I've kind of had it, and I'm tired of being the bigger person, and I just want to punish people for being bad. And her way of punishing them was not to kill them. Again, a very kind of like religious idea of, well, I don't want to kill you because what are you going to learn being dead? However, being trapped with your own, I was talking to you about this earlier, being trapped with your own thoughts forever. My God, I couldn't do 12 hours without, having to call my mom. Could you imagine being trapped in a snow globe for eternity with your own stupid thoughts? I I can't think of a worse punishment. And so I think like her idea, like the plot of this thing is about the least important, but it was all solid. It all tracked for me. I thought she did a really good job. I enjoyed the stuff with Krampus. It's silly, but again, we're having fun with Christmas mythology. I love the use of the Christmas mythology terminology. When Lucy Liu starts talking about Santa, she doesn't call him Santa Claus. She calls him Saint Nicholas of Armida or whatever the fuck she says. Stuff like that.
True story. The real Saint Nicholas was part of was it the Council of, I forget which council it was. He's responsible for one of the creeds that kind of gets umbrellaed into the Nicene creeds, and he was so adamant about the triune nature of God, and as a non-creedist and non-Trinitarian, this lowers him in my estimation. He actually choked a guy during the Nicene conference.
That tracks for me. Anyway, I love the use of Christmas mythology, and overall, this made my top 10 of the year. I think it.
Once again,
I don't have many quibbles. One, I super enjoyed this movie. Two, I don't think it was poorly made. Other than some of the wonky CGI, which looks kind of shit. That's about the only. It looks cheap. It looks like it was made to go on Amazon. It was so funny. I think they made the decision to do IMAX well after they had done the CGI rendering, and they're like, "There's nothing we can do. It's going to look like garbage." And The Rock said, "It'll be fine."
I did not watch this in IMAX, and I imagine it would have hurt my brain.
I did, and oof. It's about the only bad thing I have to say about this movie is the CGI is shit. But I don't care. I'm not the world's biggest. It has to be much worse than this for me to go, it took me out of the movie. I just was like, okay, I know it's CGI. This looks like shit. But I don't care. The rest of it is so much better. It's so good that I got over it fast enough. So those are my thoughts. Like I said, top 10 for the year. Well enough made that I can put it above other movies like Furiosa, and enjoyed it so much that I can't not put it in my top 10. Not when I'm smiling to the point where my face hurt, but also crying because the message about fatherhood touched me as it did.